Hey guys, welcome back to Antho Branding. Today we want to talk about church entrances. And what we want to talk specifically about is how to create a welcoming and engaging entrance that's both safe and effective for your church. This post is going to be more geared towards an older church. And it's simply because the longer a church has been around, especially the longer a church building has been around, the more additions and changes the building has gone through. And with each addition and with each change the building undertakes, entrances have to be added, doors have to be added, and this is all part of building code to make sure that if there's a fire, everyone's able to get out safely. It's hugely important for that safety evacuation precautions. But with the additions and with these added doors comes some confusion, especially if these doors were added, a decade, 2 decades ago. Most likely when they were added, security wasn't a big thought. We try to keep our kids safe and everything like that, but there's a general trust amongst the population, amongst church members, that no one really thought too much about it. So as these doors were added, most of them were unlocked for Sunday mornings and just made to be so members could be as made so the doors were as convenient as possible for members. So there's some doors that some members have been coming through for 10 years that may be on the backside of the building or some random side wing, but there's just, Brother Bob just loves that door and he will not go through any other door. But as, we've come into the 21st century and unfortunately safety has come to the forefront, we have to be safety conscientious. We have to take precautions to keep our members safe, to keep our children safe. So we need to put some more thought into this. And so as the more doors that are added, obviously the more complex entering the building becomes because you have all these choices to make. But also there's that many more doors for someone to walk through with bad intentions that can get to your children or get to your elderly members or your whoever you think may be a target. The easier it is to get into the building, the more unsafe the building is. So while these doors are important for getting out and hugely important for evacuation, they also are a huge security risk coming into the building. So in order to create a welcoming entrance that's both functional and safe, we want to make sure that we're going to select a entrance that we think is the most prominent, the most obvious for entrance into the building. Most likely you'd want to choose a entrance that's going to be right in the middle of your parking lot. Most architecture and most church architecture is going to have somewhat prominent entrance or has done something with the architecture to signify this is the entrance, whether it be an overhang so cars can drop off and pick up, or whether it just be a little bit of a stoop or a porch in front of it. Things like this have been created to kind of help signify an entrance. But, as each addition is added, some more significance is placed on other entrances and whatnot. So as you're creating this entrance, you're going to want to have to, you're going to have to pick at least 1 to 2 doors that are going to be the most prominent entrances. Now, for some of you have churches where the parking lot wraps completely around the building. And this is going to be a little bit more tricky because now you have to have entrances on each side of the building, but you need to pick and signify which ones are there for people to enter and which ones are not. So we're going to talk about how to pick and how to signify and how to create an entrance with limited budget and with limited resources. So unfortunately, the bigger the parking lot, the bigger your building, the more resources and the more money and the more people it's going to take to man and to work these entrances. But if you have a smaller church, it's going to take a little less. But let's go ahead and take a look at the things to do in order to create a functioning, effective, and safe entrance for your church. So like I say, we want to pick a main entrance for the building or main entrances depending on the layout of your parking lot, the layout of your church. You may have to pick more than one. I would suggest only one if possible. That way you can focus all of your resources on that one door. However, if you have to have more than one, then you're going to have to pick the fewest amount possible to make it work. I would suggest 4 at the most. If you have a wraparound parking lot where people will park all the way around the building, you need to make sure you have one good entrance on each side in order to accommodate for that. However, if you don't have this, pick one door, maybe two at the tops. Remember, the more doors you have to worry about, the more resources and the more time and effort you have to spend on making them good and effective and safe. So with that, pick the one that's the most prominent, the most obvious. You don't want to pick a door that's going to be around the corner of a building, a single door, no windows, nothing marking it. You want to make sure that's going to be something where you pull into the parking lot, you know, that's where I'm supposed to enter. Now, there's going to be some steps that you could do to help with this if your church architecture, if the way your church is designed doesn't really lead or tend to help with this. That's okay. There's ways to change that so it does work. We'll talk about that a little later on. So as you're picking your door, you need to go through the process of locking the other ones. This is going to ruffle a few feathers, especially of the long-term church members who have been going through that back door. Like I said, Brother Bob does not want to go through a different door than the one right in front of his parking spot that he parks in every Sunday and every Wednesday. That's his spot. That's his door. He's not giving it up. But you need to continue to preach. You need to continue to explain the significance, the importance of having a singular entrance and locking the others so that everyone in the building can remain as safe as possible, as well as welcoming everyone to the best of our abilities every time they walk into the building. So, like I said, it's going to be inconvenient for long-term members, especially those who have been going through those obscure doors that have been unlocked for years. That's okay. We need to continue to show them and tell them why this next step, like why this is important. Now, number 3 is ways to distinguish your main entrance. So if you don't have a church architecture that will signify or help make an entrance more prominent than the others, there's a few ways that can be effective, a few ways that are fairly cheap. They're going to be different price points, but there's a price point in here for everyone, trust me. So the first way that we could do this is if you have a little bit of money, you can have a custom pop-up tent. One of those sunshade cover things that you'll see at sporting events for tailgating on the side of a soccer field with parents, or these sort of things that are just a sunshade. It's a 10 by 10 tent that's about 8 feet tall. You could have your logo and you could have a welcome wording printed on those covers. It's going to be probably the priciest solution of all of this. But if you throw that in front of your doors, no one's going to be able to mistake it as the entrance because it says welcome. It's going to have the church logo, and you're going to have people in that tent welcoming people. So not only will there be a tent that says welcome, there'll be a friendly face with a hand to shake saying welcome to our church. Number 2, you could get some tall flags. They make them like 12 by 2, stick them on both sides of the door. You'll have these custom made, so it says welcome or welcome to First Baptist Church, or welcome home, whatever your tagline, whatever your branding wants to be. If you throw these big flags on the side of the doors, it's going to be pretty unmistakable as to where you're supposed to go in. Another cheap one to do is balloons. This is probably the cheapest solution outside of just using volunteers. So balloons every week, just buy a dozen of them, get them in your church colors, stick them on the lamp next to the doors, get some cheap yard signs or anything of the like to tie them to, line the entrance sidewalk so that people can see, hey, this is where they want us to enter. It makes it pretty obvious. Balloons are fairly cheap. It's going to cost you less than $10 a week to do something like that. So it'd be a great solution for you. Especially if you're short on budget and you want to do something a little extra to help signify, hey, this is where we want you to come in. Then you could also get some signage. This is going to be probably a mid-price point depending on how much signs you need and you want. Have some yard signs that say welcome, and as they point you into the door, put a sign over the entrance, something new, something snazzy that's going to catch people's attention. It says welcome. All these things are just going to help to signify this is the door we want you to walk through. This is a door that we've prepared for you to walk through. Look, see this door, walk through it. You're going to get frustrated because you're going to do a lot of these things and people are still going to try to get through other doors. Trust me, you're going to probably want to be a little over the top with this. Much like any communication, if you want things to get through to your members, to your visitors, you're going to have to say them multiple times. So the more ways you can signify this is the door we want you to come through, the better it's going to be, the better the results are going to be. And then last is going to probably be the cheapest option. Is most likely should cost you nothing. Use volunteers. Look, you probably already have greeters. You probably already have welcomers. They probably are scattered throughout the building. Let's focus them all on the one door or the few doors that you want to signify as main entrances. Use them for your benefit. Stick them outside the door. Have them greet people in the parking lot as they pull in. Have them point you to the door that you're supposed to go in. Have people holding the doors. Have people shaking hands, saying hello, good morning as they're walking through the doors. People will always walk towards a crowd, so the more people that you have there to signify the entrances, the better. And if you're able to combine any of these or able to use any of these, I highly suggest that you please use volunteers, use greeters. Don't just stick a sign at a door and say, come through this door. Have someone there to greet them. It's going to be the best results that you're going to be able to get is through both signage, attention grabbers, but also having genuine human beings there that are grateful to see someone, that are happy to see them, that are going to make a good impression, and who are going to go the extra mile to help visitors, help guests, help members, whoever's walking through that door, get to where they want to go. And do it being friendly, not putting them in an awkward situation, just helping people get where they need to go by signifying where the main entrance is, which is the most important thing to get someone through the doors. You need to show them where to actually enter your church. And then from that point on, use greeters and welcomers to kind of help them get to wherever else in the church building that they need to go and do, whether it be the kids ministry area, whether it be the restrooms, whether it be coffee, whatever you have in the building that's going to help them out. Have your greeters walk them to them, have your greeters help with that. But they're not going to be able to find greeters and people who are going to help them with this if you have 10 different entrances, all of them unlocked, and none of them with people in front of them. So pick a main entrance, use volunteers, use greeters, use all these different ideas that I've set in front for you to signify the entrances. And it's going to help your welcoming and your volunteers do that much better. Now, once you've signified the outside of the entrance, you have people out there, you have balloons, you have some big flags, you have a sign over the door. Get creative with the inside of the door. So you've got them to the door, now you're getting them through it. Now that you know that everyone who's going to enter your building is coming through these few, 1, 2, or 3 entrances, you could really take time and effort to place something on the inside of the door that's going to help them out, whether it be, a welcoming greeting table with some more welcomers and greeters with some church information, people who are going to help guide them through the church to get them to where they need to go. Really take some time so as they get through the door, they feel like they're still welcome. You don't want to make them feel great and welcomed outside the church, and as soon as they get in there, no one talks to them, no one helps them, they're on their own. You want to make sure that the same amount of attention that they got in the parking lot is the same amount of attention that they're going to get as they walk through the door and as they find their seat for the Sunday morning service. So be creative with this. You could use booths, you could use signage. I've seen tables, I've seen TVs with all the information on there. I've seen people with shirts, let's say, I'm here to help, ask me a question, and they're there just running people around so they could take them to the kids ministry area or wherever they need to go, answering any questions they may have. Stick a pastor there to kind of meet and greet before the service. You could do all sorts of things, but make sure that people feel just as loved and welcomed coming through the door as they did before they even got to the door. Remember that your first impression is going to be something that's going to be hard to get rid of. No matter how hard you try, someone will always have that first impression of you, and it will take a very long time to get rid of it. So if you make a bad first impression, most likely it's going to leave a sour taste in their mouth, and they're not going to be able to get rid of that, regardless of how great your church is, regardless of how healthy your church is, regardless of just about anything. If they felt like they were unwelcome or unloved as they walked into the church, whether it be through walking through the wrong door and being completely lost with no help, whether it be walking through the right door and then being left to their own devices, whatever it is, you need to make sure that you leave a good impression with guests and visitors, because it's not only is it important for our church as churches are supposed to be loving and care for all those, but it's also a stewardship issue. If God has been gracious enough to allow visitors to come and visit your church, then you should be taking the initiative to steward your time and your resources well so that you can care for and minister to those visitors and guests to the best of your capabilities. If not, you're not stewarding your resources well. You're not stewarding what God is giving you well. And you just might see these things that have been given to you slowly taken away because the effort, the stewardship is not there. So this is all part of stewardship. This is part of taking or making sure that your congregation is safe, making sure your kids are safe. And it's all part of loving your visitors, loving your neighbors as they're coming through the door for the first time. Help them find the right door, help them meet the right people, help them get to where they need to go. This all comes through having a singular entrance or main prominent entrances that are both manned by volunteers, that every person is welcomed because there's only a few doors for them to walk through, so you're guaranteeing that they're at least getting some personal contact as they walk through the door and enter your church. And finally, it's a stewardship issue. It's taking care, it's safety, it's welcoming, it's greeting, it's loving. You need to make sure that you figure out what you want to do, where you want it to be, and how you're going to make your entrances as welcoming and inviting and safe as possible. So thank you for watching this video. It's going to go along with a blog. We're going to go a little bit more in detail with this stuff, but most of the topics are covered through this video. So if you just like watching videos, no need to read the blog. If you like reading, then no need to watch this video, but you've already watched it, so tough luck. If you like this video, please leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Like us on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter for more information about Anthro branding and just life in general. And yeah, please leave a comment if you have anything that you want to add, any questions you want to ask, or something that we got wrong. Let us know. We love to hear feedback so that we can continue to craft this content to better serve the normative sized church, so that the normative sized church can glorify God more through design, more through their stewardship, and so that we all can continue to proclaim the good news of Christ to all who may enter our buildings and may feel the love of Christ as they enter our buildings.